guys. Hello. So for the 7 of you maybe who have not heard of imposter syndrome, I can explain it to you. It's basically this feeling that a lot of people have that nothing that they do that's good in the world is because they are good at things. It's also called fraud syndrome. And I feel like this all of the time. I feel like this now in front of you all who are watching me stand here. I feel like this in the workplace. It's pretty common. It's so common, and I have felt it for so long that before I knew that it had a name, I made up a name for it. And the name I made up for it is Two Kids in a Trench Coat. Because that's really how I feel. When I feel like an imposter, I feel like a pair of toddlers with a beard on asking Mel Brooks to open a bank account. And he asked me what the bank account number is, and I say 7. So if you haven't watched The Little Rascals, maybe that doesn't make sense. Maybe that's generational. But this is the name I made up for it. Because this is the best way that I've been able to come to describe what imposter syndrome feels like to me. In preparation for this talk, I Googled it just to see if anyone else had ever described it that way. They had not, so the cheese stood alone on that one. I did find this amazing graphic from tvtropes.org, which I guess makes brights them up. It's like a wiki for TV tropes. And this one is called Totem Pole Trench. That's the name of it. And it's in some things. It's apparently not as common as my child brain had logged it away into thinking. And part of it, I guess it's part of something larger called the conspicuous trench trope, which is, by the way, not to be confused with the badass long coat, okay? It's not that. It's not that, right? So these are the things that you learn when you're deep Googling at night and you're super nervous to talk in front of a bunch of people. So Two Kids in a Trench Coat is, do you like my graphics? Isn't that good? It's 70% of people, according to studies dating back to the 1970s, feel it. 70% of people, right? And women feel it way more often than men. They feel it more deeply and more acutely, which is, I'm pretty sure, a talk. That's its whole other thing. And the most important thing I think about it is that it's not a personality trait and it's not something you're born with. It is something that you are conditioned to feel, which means that something about what's going on with the way we treat people in the workplace is convincing 70% of us that we don't know what the hell we're doing. That we are frauds in everything that we do. So there has to be something to that. There has to be something that's going on. And my theory about it is that we set up this idea that there are experts and then there's you. Oh, that's me, by the way. If you've ever felt this way, great job, because highly motivated people suffer from it way more than lazy people. So if you've never felt like an imposter, you might want to try a little harder. So this is what I think most people feel like, right? There's this little portion of experts, and they know everything, and then there's you, and you're just bumbling through the world and trying to convince people that you're a worthless, or that you're worthwhile, right? So that's you. You're a sad emoticon. But I think this comes from this idea, and especially for those of us who work in new media, right? I work in new media. I'm a social media dork, and I run a little website. It's called Seattle-ish, by the way. So people, when you rank expertise, right, you often ask, okay, you need 10 years of experience, right? 10 years ago in 2004, these companies were founded. This is what happened in 2004. So 10 years, and that guy was founded in 2004. So 10 years of social media experience is insane. That's a literal lifetime of social media. So if you think that 10 years makes an expert, look around. 10 years ago, I was figuring out the perfect aim away message. That's what 10 years means. These are actual headlines from 10 years ago. This is from the New York Times. Should your PC be your telephone, okay? This is what was happening 10 years ago. So if you think that the only people who are experts are people who have 10 years, and I just picked 10 years because I think that's what an HR person would say. Yeah, social media, look at this. Target only joined Twitter in 2009. 2009, I joined in 2009. Hey-ho, what up, guys? People have only just gotten to this, right? So it's not so much that there's experts and then there's everyone else. It's that there's a lot of people, and then there are people who tell their self-doubt to just shut it, because that's really the difference. It's not a duration thing. It has to do with how much you can kind of get outside of it and how much you can look at yourself in your trench coat and be like, oh yeah, okay, I'm pretty convincing as an adult. Because that's what everybody else is doing too, right? Everybody else is doing that too. You're not the only fraud. We pretty much all are. And anyone who will tell you that they're an expert is trying to sell you something. So my advice is, do confuse it with the badass long coat. be the badass long coat because a duster is like a jacket, only longer, thicker, and far more badass. So do that.